Shalom Aleichem. I wanted to bring you here to En-avdat in this wadi to talk again about desert images. One of the desert images you cannot see right now, but we talked about the desert image back at Khan HaShariarot, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, the place where we're staying at in the Bedouin camp, and I talked God is Shade, and our camera girl Robin, and our producer, director, writer, whatever you have, Rod, they're all in the shade here. So God is Shade, and they're really appreciating that here in this canyon where it's very hot and the sun is beating down. But the thing is that as we're taking a look at Wadi Avdat and En-avdat, Ein is Hebrew for spring. So this is not rainwater, this is spring water, and the spring comes down from that waterfall in the back and all the way in the back here. It's a good picture though as we take a look at this water, because again we get desert images that David uses all the time. And once you understand David and the desert images, you get a pretty good idea of what he's talking about. The first image that I'd like you to feel here in this wadi, in Psalm 23, matter of fact, I'll read it so we have the exact wording. In Psalm 23, it says, "Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me." And I've actually had people ask me, "John, where is the valley of the shadow of death? Can you take me to it in Israel?" And I said, no, because it doesn't say that in Hebrew. I don't know why the translators translated it that way, but maybe there is a reason, because when you talk about Hebrew, you cannot define a Hebrew word. A Hebrew word is always a conceptual idea. In English, we want a definition. We say a truck. We know what that is. The Hebrew word for the valley of the shadow of death is gahi. Now, a gahi is a canyon that has steep sides, and especially it's going to be very dark in here once the sun has set. So with regards to a gahi, this would be a dark canyon. Now this one happens to have spring water in it as well, but in the days of Jesus, in the days of the Maccabees, in the days of David, and even before, it was easy for lions to come up from Africa and to actually come into these places. And it just so happens that the lions would come here, and one of the reasons that they would is, first of all, the wildlife that would come down here, especially you can imagine the wildlife that are coming down for this beautiful spring water. But the second thing is, shepherds in Israel, like David, during the winter months would bring their sheep here in the gahi, and especially in wadis like this one, because during the winter it's the rainy season from about November to about, let's say, the beginning of April, and there would be flash floods in here, and the floods would be just powerful coming through here, even here. And those floods would come in, and that's what's actually formed this. The glaciers didn't form this, maybe part of it. But the thing is, mostly this was formed by rainwater and flash floods that would come through here during the rainy season. So what you have is, after the rain has subsided, you have all of this water. Now this one happens to have spring water, but there's other wadis right out that this is a part of, that there's no springs in them. They're all dry. And so with that being the case, what we have is you would have your sheep down in the bottom of the canyon only for the simple reason that they would be able to come there to drink the quiet water after the flash floods. So in a sense, you have shepherds down here in the gahi. And again, like I said, we have lions here during the time of David. During the time of Solomon, there would be lions here. There would be bears here. There would be wolves here. And so with a shepherd having his sheep being down here, indeed, you have the perspective that from a sheep's perspective, this is a valley of the shadow of death. So in a sense, it could be our Bible translators are trying to take the word gahi in Hebrew and expand upon it in English to give a better idea of the conceptual meaning of the word. Like I said, Hebrew is conceptual, English is definition. If you have English as definition, you cannot understand the Bible because you need to understand the Hebrew, which is conceptual in nature. So indeed, when we take a look at Psalm 23, with regards to Psalm 23, we're taking a look at the valley of the shadow of death, and this is that desert image that we're taking a look at. So again, we have a better conceptual idea indeed of what David is talking about. The last thing I want to bring up very interestingly at the end, can you imagine though if there was no spring here? And this was in the middle of December after a flash flood. This is what the water possibly would look like. Maybe not as beautiful, but you'd have pockets and puddles of the rainwater left over, and it'd be very quiet here, just like it is now. And so when it says, as in Psalm 23, that he leads me besides quiet waters. Where? Here in the valley of the shadow of death. So indeed the waters would be quiet, they would be still, there would be no flash flood. So those are some of the desert images here at En-avdat to give us that perspective on Psalm 23. So indeed, when we take a look for ourselves in our own lives, we're walking through maybe some stressful times. We're walking through the gahi in our own lives. There could be times of difficulty and anxiety. And again, what the Lord is showing us in his character is that he leads us besides quiet waters. He's the one that is protecting us with his rod and staff from the lions that would be down here. And our trust is in him, no matter how bad this looks. And that's why many people would say in a difficult situation, where is God in this situation? Is this God's will? And the thing is, they don't understand that as we take a look at the desert images and we take a look at how bad it could be, God is here. He is with us. And so indeed, this is a good application of Psalm 23 as we look at it in our lives even today. So I thank you for this. It's nice to bring you down here. I wish you could be here. The climb out is spectacular, climbing that cliff up there. It's a lot of fun. Maybe you'll come with me on tour and actually enjoy the rest of the lessons that we do here. So I'm going to come back. I'm going to get some water there in the shade where the camera girl and the producer are. And so I will say, Shalom Aleichem.